Who's the most influential person in your life?
My father?
My mother.
Probably my mom.
My grandma. I would say my dad.
Tell you the truth, it's my parents. I don't know any way to get around that. It's my parents.
Who's the most influential person in your life?
In my life, my parents. Do you have to pick one?
Not necessarily. What influences you?
Popular culture, literature. It's sort of a quick summation, I suppose.
I'm influenced by the weather a lot.
By life, the beauty of it, by the people who don't have the same opportunities as I have. I think that's what influences me the most to like do what I do and be who I am.
Music, art, people, my mom, God.
What influences me? My surroundings, my friends, where I'm from.
The news.
My wife, I'd say, yeah. She definitely influences me.
What influences me? My family, my friends, and my ideals.
Probably my professors. I know that sounds stupid, but I've learned a lot from them.
What influences you?
What influences me? Well, the media, of course.
For better or for worse?
Oh, I don't know if I would say, make a judgment one way or the other, but we're so surrounded and inundated with it all the time. You can't really help it, can you?
Probably not.
What influences me? Well, lately I think music has really been good.
What influences me? Well, gosh, I guess just the environment which I am, which would be the country, and then my family and friends, and also, I guess, philosophically, I do a lot of meditating, and I think that influences me a lot also.
Who do you influence in your life?
My friends, my family, people I work with.
How do you influence them?
By the way in which you communicate with them, the way in which you treat them, and just to some extent inspiring them if you're good enough to inspire them.
So how about your life? Who do you influence with your life?
I hope to influence my peers.
I don't know how much of an influence I've been, but I think whoever I meet in this world, I just always try, especially where I come from, I just always try to tell them that they can achieve and really reach their potential beyond what they believe or beyond the circumstances that surround them.
My wife and I sort of mutually influence each other, so obviously because of the time we spent together, I think I'm the strongest influencer of her.
Do I influence? Nobody yet, I think.
So what are you waiting for?
Waiting to really know something serious before I really do something.
Who do you influence with your life?
My teammates and my little sister.
I don't really know. I mean, you'd have to ask everybody else about that.
I don't know how much influence I have. I don't know. You never really know how much you influence anybody, so I really don't know.
So how much influence do you have, and how much influence do others have on you? I remember back when I got married, had all these groomsmen, and I was trying to think of something to give them as a gift for participating in my wedding, and I was talking to my boss about it. I was working for a congressman at the time, and I said, "Boss, what do you think I ought to get these guys?" He said, "Get them all congressional cufflinks." I said, "Bob, none of them wear French cuff shirts." He said, "That's the point. You want to influence them. You want to raise the bar on their dress. And if you give them these French cufflinks, if you give them these cufflinks, maybe they'll step it up and start dressing a little better." And so I bought into it. He influenced me. I got these congressional cufflinks, gave them all to him, and not one of those guys wears French cuffs today, and nor wears those cufflinks. They probably have no idea where they are. Now, here's the interesting thing. One of those guys who was in my wedding invited me to be in his wedding. And when we came to the time he was going to give us all gifts for being in his wedding, he gave every one of us water hoses. Water hoses. And you know, I still use that same water hose today, 30-something years later. Still using that water hose. Now, I learned a lot about influence in that moment. How people do things for you or say things to you that ultimately go with you the rest of your life. That's what the book of Proverbs is all about. And that's why we've been trying to do this series together to discover how to become wise and how to impart that wisdom to other people. So if you brought a Bible or your device, we're going to look at a couple chapters of Proverbs today, 4 and 5, and we're going to dig in and see if we can learn a little bit about influence. Now, let me remind you about Proverbs. Remember, it's Solomon, King Solomon, trying now to teach his people about the wisdom of God, how to live their lives under the wisdom of God. He's drawn the contrast between wisdom and foolishness. And he gets to the point in chapter 1, verse 7, he gives us this key verse that I hope before this series is over, you'll have memorized. It says this: "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline." So we've done our best now to unpack what that means and how wisdom is important. And you know, really, the truth is, it wouldn't do me any good to unpack this Bible study for you if you didn't care about whether or not your life was honoring God in any way. If you're not in passionate pursuit of the knowledge of God, a lot of this isn't going to make any sense to you. But today, if you've come looking for God and looking for the life that God has designed you for, then hopefully you'll find some help in what Solomon has to say to you. Everything in this book is all about street smarts. It's all about real life. When Solomon said all of these things, he was talking about making sure your life was exactly as what God intended for you. So previously we talked about wisdom meaning the pursuit of the knowledge of God, and then we talked last week about how that should translate into a disciplined life. Not only you setting up a disciplined life, but having discipline in your life or people that bring that to you. So today, I want to talk about how my relationships contribute to the pursuit of wisdom. And that's in three ways. I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. It's adding value, it's avoiding vice, and it's acquiring virtue. There they are, the A and the V. I hope you picked up on that right away. And here we go. We're going to start with Proverbs chapter 4 and beginning with verse 1. "Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction, and pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so you do not forsake my teaching." Now see, here he is, Solomon saying to his son, but really to the nation, I want to add value to your life. So I'm going to give you these proverbs, these wise sayings for you to apply to every one of your relationships. Over and over again, Solomon implores the young man to listen to his teaching on wisdom, just like, your pastor's doing today. I'm begging you, listen to what Solomon has to say. He constantly uses the character of the father as the person imparting that wisdom to his child. And here's the bottom line. The father cares enough to want to add value to his sons. And so therefore, he has the listeners now, all of us, being his sons. And the whole purpose of Proverbs is to make you a better person, to add value to your character in your life. Listen, nothing more important in your life than your integrity, your character, and oftentimes it's the thing that we work on the least. But it's more than just God adding value to you. It's also an example of how you can add value to other people. Now, here's a simple question I want to start out with today. Is anyone a better person because they've crossed your path? Is anyone a better person because your shadow has been cast upon them, that they've interacted with you, that they're in a friendship with you? Are they a better person because of their relationship with you? Proverbs says it over and over. I'm giving you this wise teaching. I'm investing my time and my effort and my energy into you so that you can live the life God designed for you. That's why I'm doing this. He's saying, I want you to know the joy of living life according to God's plan for you. So it's an often quoted proverb. He says it later when he has all the proverbs together. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Maybe you've heard that. Well, it's not just for the guys, ladies. This is one person seeing the opportunity to sharpen or add value to another person. The question is, who are the important people in your life, your most important relationships, and what value are you adding to their lives today? I really think you should pause and think about that. In my family, in my friendships, with my coworkers, how am I being the iron that sharpens the iron in their life? It's interesting. Here's what Solomon said. I give you sound learning. Why? So you do not forsake my teaching. In other words, so you won't be here's his word, a fool. So you won't live your life according to foolishness, make stupid mistakes, because I want you to achieve all the greatness God has for you, designed for you. I'm investing in you to add value to you so that you can ultimately have the character, the soul, the mind, the life that you were intended to live. And listen, men and women, I just want to tell you this. You do not need a title or a position to teach and influence people. You have that opportunity just randomly with everybody who you connect with, who you rub shoulders with. Now, I'm gonna tell you, though, it's important that you see that even in a minute, even in a sentence, you can make a person a better person, just like Solomon is trying to make us better people. I remember back when I first graduated from college, my first job, I mentioned it before, I was working for this congressman, and there was this dedication of the Veterans Hospital over in Dayton. They had built a new addition to it. And so I was to go, he couldn't be there, so I was to go represent him. And that's where you just stand up and tell the crowd there, one sentence, Congressman thinks this is great, happy, way to go, celebrate, and sit down, get out of the way, for the main speaker. And the main speaker that day happened to be John Glenn, former astronaut. He was a senator from Ohio at the time, and he was the main speaker. So I'm sitting with him on the dais, and he gets up there. And John wasn't known for being a great orator, but he really gave a terrific speech that day. But here's the thing I remember. It was so amazing. Afterward, when they ended the ceremony, he comes up to me, puts his hands on my shoulders, and spends about 5 minutes telling me how awesome I did. I'm like, what? He's like, man, you did such a great job. You spoke so well. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to tell Bob what a great job you did. Now, I'm thinking to myself, you thought I gave the speech. And he took a couple minutes to just pour into this little young, snotty-nosed congressional aide just out of college a few words of encouragement. And I'll tell you that stuff lasts forever if you're willing to do it, because, look, I'm talking to you about it 33 years later. And it's just, if we take those opportunities to see that there are people that God has placed in our life for us to encourage, for us to impart wisdom to. Now, here's my question. Who has a memory of someone adding value to you? Who is it? Who is the person that you can remember taking even a minute, even a sentence, and pouring value into you? Who has a memory of you adding value to them? Who could say today, you know what, I remember when, put your name in there, spend a little time encouraging me, teaching me? Is someone encouraged today because of your influence in your family, your closest friends, your coworkers? Is someone closer to God today because of your example, your words? Are there people in your life better than they were before because you have poured into them? That's really the example Solomon sets. And with that plea to listen to sound teaching, though, Solomon also gives warning. And sometimes it's warning that we have to give to our best friends to make them better, to keep them clear of danger. And here's what he says. Chapter 4, verse 14. Do not set foot on the path of the wicked, or walk in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your way, for they cannot sleep till they do evil. They are robbed of slumber till they make someone fall. You see, here's what he's saying is not only do I need to add value, have him add value to me and me add value to others, But in my relationships, I need to also avoid vice. Now, you watch the TV shows, right? There's the Vice Squad. The Vice Squad of a police, it's a unit that focuses on things like drugs, narcotics, prostitution, pornography, illegal liquor sales, all those kind of things are there. That's the Vice Squad. And vice simply means the sinful stuff in our life. And some people actually, as they develop a relationship with someone else, might get to the place where they actually ask the question, what are some of your vices? What are some of your struggles? What are some of the things that you have trouble giving up or avoiding? Now remember, Proverbs is a contrast between wisdom and foolishness, or sin and vice versus wisdom. Because sin and vice are a part of that path of foolishness we're trying to remove from our lives. Well, hopefully, you're trying to remove those from your life. Solomon makes it clear, a way to stay off the path of sin is to avoid close relationships with people who want you to walk that path of sin with them. Now hear me. I'm just telling you what he said here. Do not set foot on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of evil men. Now, I have to be honest with you. I've spent a lot of time talking with people who struggle with certain vices or sins in their life. And they go over and over with these same weaknesses, destroying them. And usually in these conversations, it'll include a discussion about the crowd that person is walking with. That the fact that the people around them are a negative influence upon them. And I have to admit, even talking with adults, even senior adults, sometimes it seems like we've never left high school. Like we continue to just walk with this same crowd that drags us down and doesn't drag us toward the righteousness or holiness of God. We surround ourselves with people who don't share our desire for God. And then we wonder why we struggle so much with the same failures. Oftentimes, it's because of the company that we keep. And Solomon says this about these people. For they cannot sleep till they do evil. They are robbed of slumber till they make someone fall. I mean, think about it. Think about your closest relationships, your inner circle. Are these people who want to add character and value to your life? Or are they people who seem to be constantly pushing you toward a path of destructive thoughts and behaviors? I mean, who are those people in your life that are making it difficult? Now, hey, last week we talked about the benefit of having reflection every day in your life. Looking back on that day and asking yourself, how am I doing in this passionate pursuit of the knowledge of God? Well, let me ask you with that then. Today, wouldn't it be a good idea for you to reflect a little bit on the people you have in your life? Your closest, most influential relationships. Are these people influencing you toward your passion, your desire to know God and to live for Him? I mean, it's really the call of Solomon. What about the places you go? How about these places? Do they influence my thoughts and choices in a way that I want them to? Or when I go to these places, do I often make choices or decisions that are the opposite of the direction that I want to go in my life? If you discover you choose poorly with certain people, or when you go to certain places, if possible, hear me now, you need to cut the cord on those relationships. Cut the cord on the relationships that are pulling you away from the Lord. Now, stay with me, because Solomon says it here. Avoid their path, or that path. Do not travel on it, turn from it, and go your way. Now, look, I get it. Some relationships you're not going to be able to avoid, like family or coworkers, and you can only do your best with God's help to be the one who influences rather than be influenced by these people. And I know it may sound harsh what Solomon's saying here, but God's word tells us that we have vulnerabilities that can be exploited by other people with the same weaknesses that we allow into our life. And he's saying, look, you may need to separate yourself from those negative relationships. And look, they might even be nice people. They might even be wonderful people who do generous things for others. I have a lot of those kind of people in my life. But often you find yourself failing morally when you're with them. Solomon often refers to the adulteress or the seductress in the Proverbs, says it all the time. That's the person that's trying to pull you away from your first love, your love of God. And here's how he describes it in Proverbs 5, beginning with verse 3. For the lips of an adulteress drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. She gives no thought to the way of life. Her paths are crooked, but she knows it not. Now think about what he's saying here. I mean, if evil or rebellion against God was always like a demon and always looked horrible and scary, we'd never have a problem with it. But failure or moral or immorality is often disguised as a beautiful thing in the voices of wonderful people who don't understand themselves that it's a dangerous path. I mean, that's what Solomon said, that the adulteress, the seductress doesn't even know it themselves, that they're on the wrong path. Why should I be allowing those people to influence me? So again, the question is to ask myself, who are the people in my life that I need to make an intentional decision to avoid because they're hindering my passionate pursuit of God? Now look, I'm not saying, absolutely not saying, that you sever all ties with people who don't share your faith. Men and women, you need those kind of relationships. You need the opportunities to be an influence, to add value, to demonstrate and communicate the love and grace of God. You need those people in your life. But what I'm saying is, do you need to remove people from your closest inner circle that you know are pulling you away from your passionate pursuit of God? You know, Jesus pursued the sinner and the weak and the one struggling. And that's great. We should do that as well. But we should make sure that our closest relationships are relationships that empower us to avoid evil, to avoid rebellion, that don't take advantage of our greatest vulnerabilities and weaknesses. I'm talking about the people who actually influence you. And maybe it's time you make a tough choice to back away from those you know are part of tripping you up. I had a friend about 10 years ago, and he was talking to me about this. He had a business partner that they did he ultimately got into this relationship, and they did not share the same values, and especially the value of how they do business. And his business partner was often practicing things in an unethical way, and maybe even sometimes an illegal way. And my friend began to be a little concerned that he, first of all, might be implicated in some of the ways that his business partner was acting, but also that he might himself, if he sees them working or sees some profitability in what the partner was doing, that he himself might take on some of these behaviors. So he had to make the hard choice. Now listen to me, men and women. He had to make the hard choice. And he severed that relationship and a successful business because he said, I care too deeply about my character and my integrity over all other things. Even when he confronted his business partner, he was very upset about it, and it became a very complicated situation, but he could no longer stay in that relationship. This is the wisdom of Solomon. The greater cause that you live for is your integrity. The greater cause that you live for is the glory of God in your life. It's why you live and breathe. It's why you were created. And therefore, rather than risk character failure, you do need to cut the cord with close relationships that are tripping you up and helping you to fail. But look, he continues. One more thing. This is the best part. Proverbs 4:18. Here's what he says. The path of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. You see, the path of the righteous, people who are walking in passionate pursuit of God just like you are. And that's why he's saying to you, not only do you need to add value and avoid vice, but you need to acquire virtue. You need to surround yourself with people who are seeking the same thing you're seeking. Now look, I have a question. Have you ever had a relationship where you've come to truly admire or respect somebody so much that you've said this in your mind, I wish I could be like them. I wish I was more like them. Well, see, those are the kind of people that you need in your inner circle. Those are the kind of people where you can honestly say, that person makes me a better person. Think of your daily life as taking a walk. I mean, that's really the picture that Solomon puts before us. Who is walking with you that's adding value to your character and your values and your priorities? I mean, who have you intentionally put in your life so that they'll rub off on you? Who is walking with you that encourages and challenges you in your passionate pursuit of God? I mean, he's saying, go find those people. Walk that path of righteousness with them. See, the path of righteousness is like the first gleam of dawn. You know, this is where the light is shining on the way. The light is shining on you, shining ever brighter till the full light of day, so that each minute you're growing more and more in your passionate relationship with the Lord because of the people that you surround yourself with. This past week, we celebrated a life, man. It was unbelievable. In this room, we had a memorial service for a wonderful woman named Eleanor Potchnet, about this tall, and she was passionate about her relationship with God, and she was passionate about pouring all of that into other people. I got a card from her every other week. That's why I said in the memorial service, I knew she liked at least half my sermons, because I get a card from her all the time. And she was always encouraging and always teaching. And her granddaughter stood here and said, you know, pretty much every time we were with Grandma, she was imparting some word of wisdom to us. Now, I started to think to myself, you know, now that Eleanor's gone, who's going to take her place? I need Eleanor Potchmits in my life. And then I stand here and I look at all of you and I say, there they are. There's the opportunity, all of you being that person in my circle of influence who's going to walk this shining path toward righteousness together with me, hopefully holding me accountable to the things I want to be held accountable to, hopefully encouraging me. I'm intentionally putting you in my life because I need more Eleanors there. See, I'm trying to pay attention to Solomon. I'm trying to listen to his teaching so that I'll avoid vice and I'll live out God's plan. So it's a simple question. Who have you intentionally chosen to walk on your path of life that will make you a better person? Who have you intentionally chosen to surround yourself with that will encourage you and challenge you in your passionate pursuit of the knowledge of God? Who's rubbing off on you? And ultimately, here's what I think is so important, is what Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, above all else. So therefore it's important. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Seriously, I mean, I might be able to ask who in this room has a security system on their home, and maybe a lot of hands would go up. We do a lot to make sure we lock up our stuff and protect our stuff. We're very careful about our security. The question is, how well do we guard our hearts? What kind of intentional activity, decisions, disciplines are we putting in our life to make sure that we guard this character, this soul, this heart that God has created in each one of us? Are you guarding your heart in all of your relationships? And so, it brings us to the point in the morning where we say we're going to respond to what we've heard. What is the prayer that I need to pray today? And it's simply this: Lord, make me wise in my relationships. Make me wise so that I intentionally add value to other people, that I have something of value to add to other people. Lord, make me wise in my relationships and show me any person in my life that is negatively influencing my passionate pursuit of you, and help me to cut the cord. Hard as that is, help me to do it. And then thirdly, Lord, who do I need to get after and ask to be a person in my circle of influence who will make me a better person? Who is someone that I want to get around, that I want to rub off on me? Show me that person, and I pray they'll say yes when I ask them to get involved in my life, or that just naturally, organically, our relationship can take off. See, that's the prayer of the day. Lord, make me wise in my relationship.